Juan, please start with your presentation.
Hello everyone. My name is Juan Granados Vela. Excuse me. Good morning everyone. My name is Juan Granados Vela. I'm going to expose my degree work entitled Catalogue of Habitable Structures for Urban Activation of the Road Infrastructure of Bogota. The topic of study consists of the analysis of urban affectations and impacts caused by the expansion of Bogota road infrastructure due to the urban growth of the city, thus proposing the following research question. What are the effects generated by the construction of different types of bridges and road sections on the socio-economic and environmental systems of Bogota? Thus began the identification of the urban elements that make up the city's road network, such as the nodes that are the large bridges located on the road sections, with the objective of solving the problem of large-scale traffic in the city. But what is the degree of influence that this road infrastructure has had on the urban centers? How the insertion of these bridges has caused different types of changes in the morphology, fragmenting and disconnecting the urban system of Bogota. For this reason, the object of the study concentrates on the typologies of bridges and road sections of Bogota road network by analyzing the magnitude of these elements and how they trace and define urban relations in sectors where the presence of these elements generates social, economic, and environmental barriers on the urban centers, causing an infrastructure that is designed to connect the city of the largest scale to become a segregated and fragmented elements of urban dynamics on the context of the road network. The identification of the areas affected by the expansion of the city road network has shown how, at the metropolitan level, Bogota urban system composed of urban, economic, cultural, social, and environmental networks that have been fragmented and isolated by the insertion of the mobility infrastructure, creating several points of deterioration and forgotten areas that, throughout the obsolescence of the bridges, have made the urban landscape of the city hostile to the urban dynamics of the pedestrian. The methodology of this work consists of the design of a diagnostic matrix of urban phenomena that occur in urban centers caused by the impacts and affectations that have resulted from the expansion of the mobility infrastructure in Bogota. This matrix seeks to identify the typology of the road elements that affects the urban dynamics and how they create impacts in social and environmental dynamics of the urban center close to them. 6 urban phenomena diagnosis in the analysis of the road network of Bogota are highlighted, such as insulation, segregation, bordering, dispersion, fragmentation, and urban repulsion, all characterized by different ways to behaving with the affected territory. For this presentation, 2 urban phenomena cases were chosen to deepen into diagnostic and design methodology generated in each of them. One of the urban phenomena studied is the urban isolator, which consists of a node in structure that diminishes the adjacent dynamics by elements such as bridges and road sections that disconnect and dissociate the social dynamics, producing in the urban context a deterioration and inactivity in the context. For the analysis of this urban phenomena, Avenida Calle 80 con Avenida Boyacá Bridge was chosen. This Bogota sector has a particularity. Around its infrastructure, there are important social, educational, and commercial nodes that lose their relationships and as a consequence get disconnected through the magnitude and urban voids that have not use and no relation in the typology of the bridges. This generates inactive zone, abandoned buildings, public square without social dynamics, getting completely dissociated by these road elements for the social flow. Second urban phenomenon study consists of a linear infrastructure that generates internal urban borders in the city, fragmenting various morphologies and typologies among the neighborhoods, causing the spatial segregation of the population and hindering its accessibility, thus to the hostile areas and residual spaces. For this phenomenon, the construction and expansion of the road infrastructure of Calle Sexta with NQS highway was chosen. This has the particularity of having a massive bridge that generates a visual and spatial barrier on the pedestrians, which also throughout the wide road sections and non-existing crosswalks has caused an impermeable edge that deteriorates each of the sides of the road, where the abandonment of the commercial and residential buildings can be seen, as well as different squares and paths that don't offer adequate space for the development of urban activities, causing unsafe areas for pedestrian mobility. Considering these situations for each one of the 6 cases studied, a matrix of strategies and possible scenarios for the urban activation of Bogotá is proposed. Each one of them poses a question about a possible scenario that could be presented as a modification or change of the urban landscape conception, affected by the new habitable structure that hybridizes with the urban context and then can generate other ways of habiting this space designed for cars that now will be designed for citizens. Therefore, different objectives and form of actions related to the space identified within the typology of the bridges and road sections are proposed. By this matrix of strategies and objectives, a catalog of habitable structures is made up of different urban and architectural modular pieces that respond to different urban situations, identifying the elements that make up the mobility infrastructure. Different types of urban pieces are generated that seek to reactive the urban system of the city by converting mobility into a habitable space. These through 5 strategies. The first 2 are located in the first level of the city, where they seek to develop the restoration spaces under the bridges and renovation areas in the urban voids around them. The other 2 strategies seek to improve the accessibility to the pedestrian bridges and connecting spaces throughout pieces with a variety of uses and urban activities. And finally, a strategy that seeks to create a space of permanence of urban dynamics that prioritizes the habitability of these spaces at different times of the day, that conceiving the mobility not only a place of passage but also a space for the creation of the urban dynamics. What would happen if these isolating structures were urban attraction nodes that connect the dynamics of the sector? These questions are true of a possible scenario that could turn this urban node into a social, economic, cultural, and environmental attractor for the sector that has been isolated. These habitable structures seek throughout the hybridization of these urban pieces to create an attractive spaces for the citizens' direction on the first level, with cultural areas and green areas, as well as the overpass that allows pedestrians to have a different dynamics over the city road network. The proposed scenario for the case study for the bridges Avenida Calle 80 and Avenida Boyacá is to create an urban attractor that can be a connection point to enhance the urban activities presented in the sector, becoming a node that taking advantage of the empty spaces of the road infrastructure can generate different urban facilities with a variety of uses, including spaces as parks, commercial areas, cultural centers, recreation and leisure areas that integrate the user with this node and its surroundings. What will happen if massive structures become access and nodes of urban expansion in areas that are indeterminate and dissociated from their context? This possible scenario seeks that the massive bridge become an axis of permeability that allows through the hybridization of the urban pieces with the surroundings to create a main axis that connects of the relationships of these isolated and forgotten neighborhoods by creating new urban activities that enhance the segregated uses of the sector. In the case of the study of the NQS highway with Calle Sexta, we seek to overcome the problem of the urban edge by generating a permeable axis between the fragmented neighborhoods with a habitable structure that becomes a node of urban connections. At the first level, we seek to generate dynamics that support the commercial and productive activities of the sector, attaching habitable areas to structure throughout mixed uses that can be kept active at different times of the day and feel connecting axis of a social interaction between the neighborhoods. Finally, the objective of the Catalogue of Habitable Structure for urban activation of the mobility infrastructure of Bogotá seeks the creation of different possible scenarios that through modular pieces with different sizes, spaces, with mixed uses, form of action, and urban dynamics, hybridize among them to create complex structure with various modes of habitability for a symbiotic relationship between mobility and urban dynamics that occur around the road network, thus changing the concept of mobility infrastructure, where it not only connects the traffic of the city, but also the different important urban systems such as economic, social, cultural, environmental, and among others throughout habitable structure that has the versatility to implement it in each of the particular situation of each urban center of the city, thus allowing the mobility of the citizen to inhabit it and not segregated or fragmented. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Juan, for bringing light to these cluttered and fragmented urban systems that you spoke about very relevantly. Thank you. Julie, we can go one by one. Professor Park, would you like to start by your comments?
Okay, let me start first. Thank you for the presentation. It was really nice to see it. And I have a few comments. So taking idea from obsolete infrastructure, especially in this case is bridges, is very smart and it's great to see it. And also the showing some kind of your strategy, showing two potential example is really good way to prove your kind of idea. So that is very good. And also the last comment is the overall visual kind of a presentation is very consistent and also it's easy to follow. So it was very nice to see it. And then congrats, graduation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Mohammad Allah Mandoor, please share your comments.
Actually, I have no comments. The presentation was, to the point. The idea is very clear, and I thank you. I thank you, Juan, for this good presentation and content. Thank you.
Dr. Bansal, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I think I would like to congratulate him. He made his point very clear in a given short span of time. And the way he looked at how these road networks and bridges which connect at a larger level, at macro level, how do they impact at the micro level? And how do they disconnect? And how to study them and how can we improve them? I think that's a very important area of work. And he did a great justice. And I was very inspired by the visual quality of work which he has presented. So I think that is something which is anyone can easily understand what he's trying to say. So